Hi, I'm Marcia Franklin in front of the downtown Boise Library, except for it's not the library, it's the library. For more than 25 years, this exclamation point has been a source of delight and a few raised eyebrows. On the next 180, I talk with the punctuator himself, Howard Olivier, but our conversation focuses on different kinds of signs, wayposts that have guided Olivier through some very difficult challenges. The practices he follows, though, can help people at all stages of their life. Some of them are described in the writings of an ancient poet, words that can be discovered right here in this building. I hope you can join us. Well, thanks so much for joining me, Howard. It's a beautiful day. You could be doing a lot of other things, so I appreciate you coming into my living room and joining me for a little bit here.
Thank you, Marcia. It's great to be here.
Well, the name of this program is The 180. It's about people who've made changes in their life. Looking behind us isn't such a bad thing to do in life, making a 180. You've had quite a few of them, which is why I wanted to talk to you for a long time. In fact, I dare say that you've made enough 180s that maybe you've done a couple 360s.
Right.
So I'm so happy to visit with you because I think you have a lot to offer people who are going through changes themselves. Let's talk a little bit about one of the biggest changes you made in your life, which was, about in the mid-'80s, right? You came to Boise, Idaho, moved up
That's
here
right.
to join a friend when you were in your 20s.
Yep.
And you ended up founding a business that many people may know about, which is Flying Pie Pizza. Talk about that big change in your life.
Yeah, sure. My wife Megan and I came up just to visit Joe and didn't even imagine moving up here. But when we got back to the Bay Area, we said, those were really cool people and nice speed to everything. And just, you want to try something weird and quit 2 jobs and go off? So we did. So yeah, and I started working with Joe at Flying Pie. And it was an amazing 27 years that I was there.
What would you say was your philosophy in how you managed and eventually owned that business with its workers? What was the sensibility of it?
I'm real fond of treating people like they are real people, and that means everyone. And I'm real fond of overlap. I call it overlap of how working together, something has to be in both sides' best interest. And until you can say it in a way that both sides are gaining something, you just have to be quiet and wait.
It always seemed to me as if there was also a lot of joy involved in that business. You could see it on the marquee outside. I had somebody call me once and say, "Marcia, it's your day to get it." You had that gimmick where you would put somebody's name on the outside, and you had a great menu and employees. So it seemed like you brought a lot of joy to it.
Thank you. That's a good word, joy and surprise. I used to say above zero surprise. So if you think of a number line from -10 up to 0 and then up to +10, you see what I'm saying? There's a below zero surprise, like you drive off a cliff. That's like a -9. There's these things called above zero surprise. And that's what we really specialized in. And so an example would be like the first time you tasted ice cream. Whoa. Or the first time you saw a helium balloon. Everything you've pushed off the counter has gone down, and this thing goes up. So those are above zero surprises, and we love to do that for people.
One of the ways I think that you expressed joy was back in 1994. I think it was October 1994. Mm-hmm. You came up with an idea to kind of dress up the library a little bit, the downtown Boise Library.
Yeah.
Talk about that idea you had, and it came to fruition.
Sure. Well, they had the library never had a sign on it. It was just we reused a hardware store warehouse into our library because we're thrifty people. And then they finally got a sign and it just said library. And the first time I saw it, I was stopped at a stoplight on 9th Street, and I looked down there and saw it. And just right away, I said, no, it's a better library than that. And the thing is, I've punctuated things all my life. That's always been a thing for me. And I'll work on the reader boards. That's part of why our reader boards were different, was Randy said he sold us more punctuation than he sold everyone else together.
And Randy is a sign person?
He was a sales guy, yeah. Yeah, I had to tell him what an ampersand was. He had never sold a semicolon in his life. So I looked at it and go, no, it's a better library than that. I said, it needs an exclamation point. I was going there for a meeting. I loved the library. I was supporting it in many different ways. And I went up to the lady I knew there and said, that sign, it's a better library than that. She goes, yeah. I said, it needs an exclamation point. And yeah, she says, you're right. And I said, I know Blind Pie can pay for it. If you'll get the permission, I'll take care of the money for it. So we had 2 exclamation points built. It was funny because we called the sign company that built the sign and told them what we wanted. He said, well, why would you want an explanation point anyway? And I started trying to explain it to him. He says, this is too small of a job for us. So I called Randy and said, hey, will you build me 2 exclamation points? He says, yes, thank you. The whole thing was on national television, including CNN, with the truck there putting up the sign or unwrapping it. They put it up and wrapped it like a Christmas present. And then there was a big unveiling thing. And it's turned into a much bigger thing over the years. It's quite funny in a wonderful way. I've had people tell me that that is Boise. That is Boise. To them, that it represents Boise. I've had other people tell me that no self-respecting library needs any punctuation. It runs from here to there.
Speaking of surprises, not long before you came to Boise, you started experiencing medical issues, numbness, and we didn't have the tools that we do today to diagnose it immediately, but eventually at only age 25, you were diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, MS.
That's right.
On that scale of surprises, that probably was, I don't know, it may not have been on the plus side, but maybe it was, I don't know, but a huge surprise and change for you.
It was a big shift to bring that into the circle of, our lives for Megan and me both. Yeah.
What was your thought at the time of how to do that? Of how not to let it pull you down? Because I think you told me that even trying to get insurance for the business, it was an automatic no because you had this pre-existing condition. So how did you work with this diagnosis of MS at such a young age? One
of the things I really focused on was trying to have the fact that I share a body with MS not be one of the 10 most interesting things about me. So let go of all the things I can't do and pick up something that I can do.
I know that there have been some other things that have helped you along the way, and one of them is cycling.
Yeah.
And talk about that steadiness and that constancy of cycling in your life and how it helped you not only with MS, but life in general.
Sure. Yeah. I was a cyclist for a few years before the first episodes with MS. And afterwards, relearning the pedal stroke wasn't too hard. I have to do it every year. If I take time off, I'll forget my legs, especially my left leg, will forget how to do a pedal stroke. And sometimes it would take 8 or 9 months to get it back. But it's much easier than walking.
And Howard, what does it do for you? What does that motion do for you, energetically, but also emotionally and psychically?
Sure. It does a ton. I mean, for me, it's a silent meditation. I ride by myself most of the time, and it's just a meditating time in nature. It's a place where I don't have a disability. When I'm riding, when I get off the bike, it can alarm people, but um, I'm just a guy riding a bike. So that's part of it. And also, I knew that if I stopped exercising, my legs would start getting weaker. And the thing is, so if you only have 65% of the function in your legs, my preference is that it be a strong muscle that you only have 65% of, because once you have a littler muscle, you don't have more. You still have 65%. And so at that point, maybe you can't stand up. So that was it was a way to keep being able to walk, was to ride.
And you're not just a guy with a bike. You bike what? 5,000, at least 5,000 miles a
last year. No, that was a big year. Well, before MS, I was riding more than that, more like 6,000 to 8,000. And then with MS, I think I averaged somewhere between 2,500 and 3,000 as an average. And most years in the last 20 years, I've gotten 3,000, a little more, sometimes up to 4,000. But I counted it up. For riding with MS, I've done 100,000 miles or more of riding with MS.
And have you shared that story with other people with MS? I don't know if you're part of support groups or anything like that.
Not too much. I've never found a support group that wasn't a poor me group. So if you just want to sit around feeling sorry for yourself and whatever, I can do it for a little while, but I can't do it once a month for more than a year. It's not going to happen. So yeah, I haven't shared it very much, no.
And with your walking, are you transitioning now to a scooter and something that aids you?
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing. It was amazing when I got it. I was feeling a little bad about it. I had to sit with it for a while I'm okay with this. Because I mean, the first time I tried it in the airport, when I came back to town, where to get your luggage, I was down there riding around, and there was two of my friends from yoga who I've known for 25 years there, and they looked right past me. And I went, because I was way down there. And I went, oh, I'm invisible. If you're looking around for friendly faces, you don't see one that's 2 feet lower. So let's go, okay, I'm not actually invisible. This is on their side, not mine. But those kind of things were setbacks. But the thing is, I could get to the gate and not need recovery. If they move my gate to another gate, what do I care? Just right over to it. It makes no difference. It was funny. I bought this in 2018. I bought a new carbon fiber bike and the scooter. Those were my two big purchases for the year.
I still think it's amazing that you were invisible to your friends.
It's happened more than once. Yeah. It's you look what you're looking for, you see, and when it's something you're not looking for, I mean, how many inputs do we have at any second into our eyeball that we're ignoring? I mean, like we're ignoring like 99.99999% of the inputs. I see Marsha, I'm all set. But there's over this way, there's something, and up this way, and so I mean, I think we turn those off. I don't think it's saying a bad thing about people who are very short or in wheelchairs. It's just that's what happens. Yeah.
Well, you made me think when you're talking about taking in everything dimensionally, up, down, to the side, about something else that has helped you not only with MS, but helped you balance and center in your life, and that is an ancient practice, which is turning. which is a Sufi
Yeah.
practice, and some people may know it from watching whirling dervishes,
Right.
who do it very quickly. Talk about this practice and this, because there's a rigor involved to it.
hmm
What it is and how you do it, and how it has helped you.
Okay. Yeah, I went to a camp where I saw a woman turning and reciting Rumi poetry, and I was like, that's cool. And so I asked for a lesson, and she gave me a lesson in doing it. And at the end of it, she said, you'll need to practice this. And I said, and I thought about it for a minute, because I don't like to commit to things quickly, because when I say I'm going to do something, it's very likely that it happens. And so I said, I could do this once a week. And she said, once a day would be better. And I said, I don't know if I can do that. And she shrugged, and the interview was over. But I found a place in my day where it did work. So I started doing it every day. And that was part of the magic of it, was having it be an everyday thing. That just at the end of my meditating time, I would go through the steps of doing it. You stand up and you get like this, and you bring your hands down this way, and then bring them up that way, and this hand's this way, and this hand is that way. It's a silent prayer. It's a wordless prayer. And it's an amazing place to be in a lot of different ways. I had one time when my attention went somewhere else while I was turning, and I like dropped to the floor instantly, like a puppet. If you cut the strings, just puddle. I went, wow, that was weird. So I'm real careful about keeping myself in the room. But
And
it's amazing.
you were telling me at one point that you really feel that it has assisted
Mm-hmm.
to slow the progression of the MS, to retain some balance.
Yep, balance is part of what's better with it. Also, spiritual balance, because when I'm stumbling, if I stumble in my turn, I don't stop. I say, I trust you, God, and I just keep going. And I say it often out loud. And it's amazing, because my feet will do crazy things, and I'm not even in charge of it. And I have not fallen again.
Can you briefly describe, you showed it, one hand up, one hand down.
Mm-hmm.
There is a significance to that. And of course, I just did that completely wrong.
Thanks. Oh, it's okay. No worries.
I can't even fly fish. I can't keep my wrist right. So talk about the movements.
Yeah, well, the hand that's up is receiving. See, you got me going now. I've got the wrong hand up also. But, the hand that's up is receiving energy from a higher place and bringing it into the body. It's coming through the heart area, and it's coming out the other hand, which is, well, I'll just keep it, the other hand's this way, it's down. And so that's the energy going down the arm and out the hand. And so it's bringing your purpose to life, and you're turning around. You're always following. You're not following your left hand, like looking at it, but your head is turned that direction.
Don't you get dizzy?
No. Well, it's amazing. The first time when I was having the lesson, yes, she wanted me to do 16 turns, and I was stumbling badly at 12, and she says, you can stop. I said, I want to make it to 16. And then the practice was 18, was the minimum for a day. And so I was doing 18 turns. And as long as I did 18, I wasn't dizzy at all. But then I said, well, let's just double it to 36 and see what happens. I was dizzy all over again until I got used to that amount. And so I built up, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, up to, in the first year, I was doing up to 15 or 20 minutes I could turn. And no, you don't get dizzy.
And as I understand it, you haven't missed a day in a long time, right?
Well, in the first 7.5 years, I didn't miss any days. Yeah, and then I missed in 2017, I missed 2 days. I was hospitalized, and then 2 days when our son passed. Very suddenly, the whole world stopped turning for a couple of days there.
Yes, and I did want to talk about that as well. This has been a 2.5-year journey for you and your wife and your family.
Mhm.
And everybody handles these things differently, but take me through
Mhm.
what your body and mind have gone through, the stages that have happened.
Hmm. Well, when the coroner was here and he was talking to me, and I was going, this cannot be happening. There's no, this isn't. And then this other voice says, well, exactly what exempts you from this happening? I go, okay. I mean, I understand someone's got to die. Someone's got to die by suicide this day. But this kid, seriously? No, it's just ridiculous. So the first thing was just absorbing that. Then started to open up to the good things in my life that came from it, because they kept coming, and it was quite amazing. So within a day or two, I had such a strong sense of Carrie's presence through his absence. I had never really noticed his presence because he'd been here for 26 years. And as soon as he was gone, I could feel it. Go, oh, that's Carrie's presence. So I could really feel what his essence was or is. That was an important step for me. I would say that the first year is just a mess. It's just a mess. It's just going to suck. And I started finding the things that were better in my life from this experience. The hard part for me was, how can this be the right thing? That was the question I got stuck on. How can this be the right thing? It took, I don't know, probably 10 months to finally see the answer was that if you're doing it as a head question, you'll never get there. I couldn't get there, I would say. Figure out with my head how this could be the right thing. But I could accept with my heart that it was the right thing. So my heart can accept that that was the right thing for this person to die. I have no idea why, but I'm okay with that. So that's the kind of change that I went through with it.
You told me something that I found really profound as well, that whether it's the death of your son or your illness, that you approach life as different but not diminished.
Yeah. Yeah.
Could you expand on that?
Sure. I don't want to diminish life. I made it a long ways. I guess 38 years with MS. Been sharing the body with MS for 38 years. And I wouldn't say it's diminished my life. I'd say I've learned lessons in a different order, but it's been part of what's made me strong. So yeah, with Carrie passing, that was a much harder thing to add that into my life as a positive. And there's a lot of ways that it has happened. Yeah.
There's no one size fits all for how to get over grief or how to try and assimilate it. But if somebody is watching whose child or loved one died by suicide, are there some touchstones that you would give them that assisted you
to help me
in this process?
Yeah, just things like that. You're not doing it wrong. There's no right way to do it. What you process is what you process, and that's okay. Yeah, I've found an amazing support group here in Boise that is run by a couple who lost 2 children to suicide, and Kirby and Susan Orm lead a powerful group of people. And I mean, Yeah, that's a big important thing, is to you get some languaging things from that. That's helpful. You from hearing other people's perspective. And you also, I got things like going, I feel like I'm doing this too fast, doing this not very well, and then you see the spectrum. You know, oh, I'm kind of in the middle, or I'm even kind of toward the top end. But you go, I'm not a defective person because my son died by suicide. It's not a reflection on me, and you can't get there by yourself. I couldn't come close to getting there.
Is there anything you'd like people to know about Cary?
Oh golly, all kinds of things. I mean, he was playful, and he was ridiculously smart. His processing speed, I guess, would be a really good example of how fast. He was out in front of our house. We have these very big sycamores, well, like that, and you know, the one that's out by the street puts shade over our house. It's that kind of size of trees. And he turned the wrong direction. He was in the front yard, and he jumped up and turned to run. But he turned the wrong direction. He thought he was running in clear space, and he ran straight into the tree. So he jumped up, and he was turning, and he just crashed into this tree.
That's a 180 you don't want to do.
No. He hit the ground, and his friends are like, wow. And someone came over and said, how many fingers am I holding up? And Cary says, which one of you want to know? That kind of speed. Yeah, just astonishing. A delightful person to be around. Yeah.
Well, in you talking about Cary and kind of these philosophical way that he looked at life reminds me of another incredibly important constant in your life, and that is the poet Rumi.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually how I know you.
Yeah.
It isn't from cycling, which I like to do. It isn't from flying pie, although I like to eat pizza. It is from Rumi Night at the Boise Public Library. And this is something that dates way back to your mom, actually. And when you asked her for some advice when you were early on in the business and struggling with things, what did she tell you?
Well, yeah, I was talking to her, explaining how hard my life was at this moment. And I guess I was asking for advice in an indirect way. Yeah, she said, well, you must ask for what you really want. I was like, okay, that sounds interesting. I worked on that for a week, and when we were talking, maybe a day, 2 weeks later, she said, the next line in the poem is, don't go back to sleep. Okay, I liked it better now. So yeah, you must ask for what you really want. Don't go back to sleep. And then maybe a month later, she said, well, that whole thing is actually the second line. The first line is, the breeze at dawn has secrets to tell you. Don't go back to sleep. You must ask for what you really want. Don't go back to sleep. People are going back and forth across the door sill where the two worlds touch. The door is round and open. Don't go back to sleep. It's amazing how many places in his poetry he says things that I couldn't have even said about myself. And I go, that is so true. And I just sit there, having to absorb it for, 2 or 3 days. Just how can someone 750 years ago in a completely different culture, how can he just nail something inside me and do it so often? Yeah, there's one that kind of goes to dying by suicide. He says, yeah, I didn't come here of my own accord, and I can't leave that way. Whoever brought me here will have to take me home. Wow. Yeah, it's very helpful because it lets me know that I'm not weird. I'm not crazy. the thing is so common that, I mean, it's a helpful perspective.
Can we incorporate that line, don't go back to sleep, when we think about coming out of this pandemic?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, if we come out of this, if we go back to normal, like as if it never happened, that'd be just so sad that we can't learn something from this and have a more rich experience in life. Yeah, that's important to me.
Well, one way during this pandemic that people can learn more about you and Rumi Nights is by Googling Zumi Rumi.
Yeah, but you
Which I
have
think
to
is
spell
just,
it.
did you come up with that?
I did.
phrase?
Yeah, not on purpose, but yeah. Just in my regular writing, I was writing it a lot of different ways, and then I saw that there's kind of that similarity. So yeah.
So if people search for Zumi Rumi, you will find
with an I.
an hour and a half YouTube video that has Howard on it and other people reciting poetry, playing music. I think it's a great introduction for people to Rumi, and kind of a soft landing, if you will.
Sure.
Do you think that there are poems of Rumi's that can help us during this time?
Yeah, there's a lot of different ones, directly and indirectly. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can you think of one, or could you read one that you think might speak to people?
I don't know if it'll be helpful immediately or not, because it's kind of harsh. The first line says, "The whole world is a form for truth." The whole world is a form for truth. When someone does not feel grateful to that, the forms appear to be as he feels. They mirror his anger, his greed, his fear. That's an amazing couple of lines there. The whole world, everything around us, is a form for truth. Yeah, if you don't feel grateful for that this is a form for truth, including COVID, including losing your son. If you don't feel grateful for it, the forms will appear to be as you feel. They mirror his anger, his greed, and his fear. Make peace with the universe. Take joy in it. It will turn to gold. Resurrection will be now, every moment, a new beauty, and never any boredom. Instead, this abundant pouring noise of many springs in your ears. The tree limbs will move like people dancing who suddenly know the mystical life. For me, that's a powerful message. And he lived through things that were worse than this. So it helps me to know that it's possible.
Well, Howard, it's always a pleasure and a privilege to talk with you. I always learn something when I speak with you. So I thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me about your life and to read some Rumi for people. It really means a lot to spend some time with you. And I hope that as the days and weeks continue, that you and your family continue to stay safe and healthy.
Thank you, Marsha, very much.